Hi, so it's almost April, and I haven't done one of these reading wrap-up book videos in a while, and they're one of my favorite videos to watch because I like to see people's opinions on books. And so I thought I would do one, and it's basically all of the books I read this winter. And I honestly ended up accidentally reading a bunch of books about climate change, which was depressing. Yeah. I'm just going to be knitting this. It's like a little scarf. I think this is, or a shawl. I think this is like literally called scarf. But I like these colors. This one is called swimming pool, and this one is called midnight, and it feels very oceany, which is the thing I'm into. My only personality trait now, I guess. So let's just go through it. Here's the stack. If you're interested, like if you're gonna stop watching. I'm gonna try really hard not to do any spoilers, but if I do a spoiler, I will let you know. The first book I read, what I picked up in January, free bookmark, was, oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. The top 10 most okay, this is Roebling Books. That's probably where I bought this. They're in northern Kentucky, and they're always great. Okay. I read Two Serious Ladies by Jane Bowles. And I picked this up because I like this publisher. It's Picador, and the books are always really nice quality, which is something I care about. And also on the back, Tennessee Williams said, "My favorite book. I can't think of a modern novel that seems more likely to become a classic." Sir. Okay, so Two Serious Ladies is about two ladies that kind of realize at the same time, like they know each other, but they're definitely not friends. They kind of realize at the same time that they have autonomy and can make their own decisions. And so it's two separate stories. Like one of these ladies is like, I'm going to move to the country, and all of the people who rely on my wealth will just have to come with me. And the other lady is on a trip with her husband in South America, and she just decides, like, I want to go drink and hang out with these other women, and I don't want to be with you. And that's the story. It was really funny. I think it's a comedy. It reminded me, honestly, a lot of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, where it was just these two dumb women going on adventures. And I would say there's a difference, because in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, it worked out for them because they were so attractive. And these women are considered, I guess, older, like in their 30s. Gross. So it's not the same story, but it's a similar series of like, here are these things that happen because these women are making weird choices. And honestly, I didn't love it. I thought it was funny. Certainly not the great American novel, Tennessee Williams. I just didn't see the point. Like, why were we following these women? I guess there were a lot of instances where you could see how women were treated unfairly because of their gender, and maybe it was commentary on that, but it didn't stick the landing for me. Fun fact, if you're into Faust, Jane Bowles was bisexual, and she married her husband, who she was introduced to by Erica Mann of the Mann family. And very similarly to Erica Mann and Gustav Grungens, gross, we hate him, Jane Bowles and her husband had like a marriage where they were allowed to sleep with people of the same sex, except neither of those people were Nazis, so that's good news. So the next book I read was a book in Spanish. I read this little early reader. I was shamed into reading this by Chelsea Fagan of the Financial Diet YouTube channel. I think I saw it on a short. After Bad Bunny's Super Bowl, she had this short where she was like, you should be ashamed of yourself if you live in this country and you don't even speak Spanish. Like, you need to speak a little bit of Spanish. And I do agree with that. Like, 1 in 5 Americans speak Spanish. We should all be able to communicate. Like, the same way most Canadians learn French. Like, shouldn't we also learn Spanish? Is that crazy? I guess I spent like 9 years in full-on Spanish classes. When I was a kid, I went to like a Spanish immersion school, and I could talk to the kids then, and I do not know Spanish. So I was like, oh, I'll just grab a Spanish book and try to read it. And I want to say this book, where the sentences are this long, took me 3 hours to get through, because I would read it, I would try to understand it, knowing the words I know in Spanish, And then I would translate it with Google Translate and be like, oh. I'm going to keep this because I do want to try to read it again and make sure I still know all the words, but it was hard. It was humbling. People who speak 2 languages, you're so impressive, and I'm so impressed with you. I know enough Spanish that if I was plopped, I think, in Mexico City, I could find my way to a cell phone. I could find my way to, like, La Biblioteca. Do you know what I mean? I can't understand Spanish speakers when they're talking. They do talk very fast. I kind of end up just honing in on words that I know. So, like, someone will be speaking, I'll be like, all right, I don't know what they said, but they said the words we, they said the word job, they said the word drink. But when I'm reading it, I have a much easier time. I would like to learn another language. I just get this paralysis of choice on, like, how do you start? Like, do you go to a class? Do you find someone to teach you? Like, what do you do? Which I should just do it. I should just learn Spanish. This was challenging and fun, though. If you are trying to learn a language, I would recommend buying a children's book in that language and trying it. Because, like, also, this book is supposed to be funny. So, like, there are sentences where he's like, he buttered his tea. And when you're not looking at the picture and you're trying to understand the words, you're thinking you're very confused. But, I don't know. It was fun. Recommend. The next book I read was a pre-order. I pre-ordered this book, which came out in 2026, and I read it in 2026. Free bookmark. Yarn ball. Okay. This is Vigil by George Saunders. If I set this here, ooh, that's going to fall. It's fine. So, I love George Saunders. He's one of my favorite authors. I love his little essays. I love his short stories. Lincoln in the Bardo is one of my favorite books, like, of all time. And so I know that when you pre-order books, it's how you support authors. So I pre-ordered this book, and it wasn't my favorite. This book is about an oil tycoon who is dying, and he is visited by a ghost-type character that is supposed to ease his transition into the, like, non-living world. Which, like, the thing is, he's already written Lincoln in the Bardo. He's already covered this idea, this topic, kind of, and it felt like a bad decision to do it again, at least to me. It seemed risky to cover that topic again when, didn't he win the Pulitzer or something for that book? Like, I don't know, man. But my big problem with this book... Oh, is this a spoiler? I'm worried this might be a spoiler. I'm not going to consider it a spoiler, but if you don't want spoilers for this book, skip to the next section. My big problem with this book is that... Okay, so ContraPoints just came out with a video about the Saw movies. And in that video, she talked about Quentin Tarantino, which, when I read this book a couple months ago, I was thinking a lot about Quentin Tarantino, because the way this book ends felt not very satisfying for someone who wants oil tycoons to be punished. Is that a spoiler? I'm not sure. I really wanted a Quentin Tarantino style watch Hitler and all his collaborators burn. I want to see slavers and plantation owners punished. And this book had such a non-end to this man who is described as one of the most evil people who's ever existed, knowingly, purposefully doing evil and dooming the world and murdering people by changing their climate. And the ending of this book was just so unsatisfying in a way that made me really think. And this was before the ContraPoints video came out, so I was really excited to watch it. It made me think, this book, about, like, why I wanted it to be a violent and, like, a meaningful end to this evil person. I know we're not going to get that in real life, but why did I want it? And why did I think it would be satisfying? Because I think, like ContraPoint says in the video, we enjoy watching Hitler be set on fire, but the fact is he wasn't, right? He got to choose his own way out. Do you know what I mean? So, like, what do we get out of it? Do we even get anything out of it by having this violent fictional ending? And why did I want it? But I think this book was bad. I didn't like it. I mean, obviously, George Saunders is a brilliant writer. The writing was good. I think he's great at doing characters. I think he's especially great at doing short, little characters that pop up and have a whole life and personality that you can tell from like a very short amount of writing. So like obviously I enjoyed reading this. I would recommend it if you like George Saunders, but the book itself, I was just like, why? Why did we write this? And it made me think that perhaps George Saunders is super old. Like, is George Saunders an 88-year-old man and he is writing about how we can't choose people's ends and we should be okay with that because he's a super old person. And the thing is George Saunders is not a super old person. George Saunders is like 67, I think. I looked it up. So 66 when this book was written. 66, I wouldn't even consider an old man. That's just a man. So why is he so willing to relieve evil people of their burdens, I guess? Why was that the plot of this book? I didn't like it. I'm going to get rid of it. I want it out of my home. I will, of course, read more George Saunders. I'm going to Half Price Books later today, and this is going with me. But why? Sir, why, I guess. So this is a Penguin Popular Classics edition, and I love these bindings as well. This is a nice quality book to buy. This is called Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome. And it's about men. That's not going to work. It's about men who go on a boat trip in England, and I thought this book was really funny. It was really fun. It reminded me, honestly, of The Trip. There's a series, it's called The Trip, and it's got those famous comedians in it, and they kind of just go around and taste food and make jokes and stuff. Except those movies, or that show, I don't know if it's a show or movies, they are very, like, kitschy. Is that the word? Like saccharine. Like, it'll be two men having a fun, funny time, and then they'll be like, oh no, he's got a sad relationship with his son, and it takes me right out of it. It doesn't feel sincere. I feel like those parts are the worst parts of those movies, even though I do like them. This didn't have that. This was just three men trying to have a vacation in a world that doesn't allow it. Like, the world is not easy or simple or fun, and they had fun inside of it. I don't know. I really enjoyed this, and I was so surprised to learn that this book was written in the 1800s because it honestly felt like it was the 40s. I don't know. I really enjoyed this. It was really fun. There's nothing to say about it. They just go on a trip on a boat, and it's harder than they expect. They talk a lot about cheese. I liked it. I had a good time reading it. Next, I read another pre-order. Can you believe it? I'm doing so good this year. This is called Life After Cars, and it's by the host of a podcast called War on Cars. Will that sit there? Yes, but the books are smaller now, so whatever. Well, two things. I struggle to read nonfiction books making an argument that I already agree with. I think I talked about this when I read last year. There's a book called That Librarian, and she was talking about her struggle with book banning. And it's just like, yeah, babe, I agree with you. Book banning is bad. I'm sorry you went through that, but like, I don't need to read about it. I know cars are bad. I agree with that. Get rid of cars. I love trains. I love public transportation. Cars are dangerous. They're too big. They ruin the environment. I get it. They're too loud. So loud. It's too much. Cars are bad. So this is a book arguing that cars are bad, and I'm just like, yeah, I know. Every Halloween I post that statistic about how kids get murdered by cars when they're supposed to be having a safe, fun activity just walking around. I know. So this was useless to me, but it kind of made me mad because it's called Life After Cars. And so I assumed, that's my issue. I shouldn't have done that. I assumed it would be about life after cars. Perhaps it would describe the progress we could make to remove cars from our lives. Perhaps it could paint a picture of what that would look like, because I live like 3 miles from the closest little Main Street small town. And there is a small little grocery. There is a small little post office. Like, I could definitely bike there. I would love to be able to bike there and do all my daily things there. Except the road that goes from my house to that place has a speed limit of 65 miles an hour. So I guess I just thought, like, okay, maybe this book would tell me how to put in more bike lanes. Or maybe this book would talk about how laws would affect, like, humans if the speed limit everywhere was, like, I don't know, 20 miles an hour or something. Because I feel like I would feel pretty safe biking next to a car going 20 miles an hour. Not next to, maybe in a dedicated bike lane. But also, I think about my neighbor. My neighbor is an old woman, and she cannot bike 3 miles uphill to town. So what's the solution? What's the solution for her? Like, if life after cars happens, how does this woman go see other people if she can't bike? Like, a lot of people have disabilities. A lot of people have 3 small toddlers. Like, I thought this book would explain life after cars, and it was just cars bad. And I already agree cars are bad. So I don't recommend this unless for some reason you think Cars good. But I don't think Cars good guy is going to open the door of his truck and climb out like a little toddler because it's 7 feet off the ground and go pick up this book. Do you know what I mean? Who is this for? I'm going to sell it to at Half-Price Books. I feel kind of bad about being mean about books. Like, I know people worked really hard on that, and, like, there wasn't anything wrong with it. And I think if you think Cars good, reading it might convince you that Cars are bad. But I don't know anybody that thinks Cars are good who also reads. Anyway, next I read Boulder by Eva Baltasar, translated by Julia Sanchez. And God, I think a YouTuber recommended this book, and I think they said, I bought it like 2 years ago. That's my issue. I buy books and they just sit there. But I think they said it was an exploration of parenthood, and I was like, oh, interesting. That's not what this book is. I rated this book really highly. I think it's one of the best books I've ever read that's like set inside the mind of a huge asshole that just sucks. And there's like zero self-reflection on that. And the character just maintains her shittiness throughout the book. And I found that interesting. I enjoyed the writing. I would read another book by her. It's just, I don't think it was an exploration of parenthood in any way. It was more an exploration of how one becomes a deadbeat mother. And that was it. And doesn't feel bad about it, by the way. I don't know. It was very, very strange. Okay, I think I do want to talk about this book with spoilers. So if you're not interested in having this book spoiled, skip to this time step. So this book is about a lesbian who falls in love with a very like ambitious career woman, and she ends up moving to a different country with this woman, and they stay together for like a decade. And then this woman is like, hey, I want to have a baby. And our main character is like, ooh, gross, no, I'm such a lone wolf. I'm so cool. I know I've had a 10-year-long relationship with you, but like, no way. And then she like gets convinced to have a baby. Like, it's not even that she's convinced. See, the thing about this book is that it's weird that they're lesbians. A deadbeat father, you can imagine in a moment of passion, decides, hey, maybe I do want to have a kid, and like rips off a condom, and that results in a pregnancy. But a deadbeat lesbian mother has to like attend IVF appointments. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a whole long process. And so it just makes her so much worse. Like, the fact that she's waffling about having a child while also just sitting there lying and being like, this is fine. I guess this is happening. How could this happen to me? This is crazy. And it's like, oh, she's just the worst. She's just the worst person ever. And the thing that made this book interesting, and I did enjoy it, is that she's the worst person ever. And also, no self-reflection on that. No argument in the book to make it seem like she's not the worst person ever. It's just, here's a presentation of a woman who stole another woman's youth, convinced her that she was fine having a baby with her, and then abandoned that child and doesn't feel bad about it. That was this book. It was so weird. I found myself thinking, like, I would much rather read the story of the partner, the woman who's in this relationship with this fucking loser. Why is she making this decision to maintain this relationship? Why would you have a child with a loser? Especially, again, when you're a lesbian and there's so many steps you have to take. It doesn't just happen. Do you know what I mean? It was so weird. Anyway, this lady sucks. The main character sucks. She sucked the whole time. What a loser. I enjoyed it because I like unlikable characters. Okay, the next book I read was an audiobook called The Wager, A Tale of a Shipwreck, Mutiny, and Murder by David Graham. Grann. That's 2 N's. And it was read by Dion Graham, who I loved. I loved him. I loved this book. I love ships. I love the sea. They were stuck in South America, like near Patagonia. And I loved the descriptions of the landscapes, and I want to go to South America. Oh no. But it was a really interesting true story, and I love the way it was told because I didn't know anything about this, and so I had the information revealed to me in the way the author intended. So it was like, oh, here are some of the shipwrecked people's story, and then what? There's another group of people, and they're telling a slightly different story. That's so interesting. And I also loved the ending. I loved this book. It was like a historical non-fiction book, but it was told as a story, which I think is really difficult to do. And I know this author also wrote Killers of the Flower Moon, which it was a movie. I wouldn't watch the movie, but now I'm kind of interested in reading that book as well. What else? I noticed in some of the reviews that some people who are super into ships and the sea were kind of annoyed by all the low-level details, but because I don't know a lot of that stuff, I found it fascinating. So I don't think it's like a advanced guy who's into ships book, but for me, an entry-level guy who's into ships, it was great. I also really liked, so when I'm reading historical stuff, I often get annoyed with like cultural relativism. I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but like, for example, in this book, these men are shipwrecked and they're trying to get out of this like very rocky sea area, and they just keep getting like rocked and they can't do it. And finally, some Patagonian men show up and get them in their boat, and they offer to help them, right? And they get to the really rocky part, and the Patagonians dock, and they take their boat apart into 5 pieces, and they hand a piece to everyone, and they just start walking around the rocks until they get to the sea again, where they reassemble their boat. And while they're doing this, the author of this book has chosen to talk about inside their journals in this moment, where these shipwrecked white people are calling these Patagonian men savages. Like, while these men are showing off their engineering hacks and saving their lives, somehow these men are still like, yeah, but they're savages. And I like that they included that, because I feel like as the author, he could have chosen to just ignore that whole component and just tell the tale of the shipwreck, but it's important context. And when media ignores that type of context, for some reason I'm thinking of Hamilton, the musical. Like, you can't make slavers your heroes in your musical. it feels weird to leave that part out. And so I really liked that this book included that component. Oh no, I've made a mess of my yarn. I really liked it. I really enjoyed this book. I think I am going to go ahead and, if I see a copy of Killers of the Flower Moon, I'm going to buy it. Okay, next I read A Magical Girl Retires. Look at this cover. So this is a teeny tiny shorty book. It's like 150 pages, and it's by Park Seolyeon. Oh, I'm probably butchering that. Translated by Anton Her. Here's her name. And wait, look at her author photo, actually. I love her. So this is a book about climate change. Magical girls are real, and they have magical powers, and they are fighting the greatest enemy they have ever faced, which is man-made climate change. And they are searching for the magical girl of time because they think the only way to fix it is to go back in time. And this is a story of a girl who becomes a magical girl and then retires. I thought it was really cute. It was really short, It was written like a fun little like anime series, and I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a fun little book. I noticed in the reviews people were complaining how the story had just started getting good when it ended, but I fucking love that. I love a short book. I love when books say what they want to say and then they're done. Although I think I saw that she's coming out with a book called A Magical Girl Returns, which is probably a sequel. I don't know if I would read that because I did kind of like how the story just ended. I really liked it. I would say there's like some very heavy stuff in this book. One of the reasons girls are magical is because they think magic goes to people who are mistreated and discounted, and that mostly happens to women, and that's why it's magical girls. There was a lot of heavy stuff in it, but I did enjoy it. It was a fun little book. The last book I read actually took me the longest. I think I started this at the end of February. It's The Rats by Günter Grass. It's a huge book, and he actually did the illustration, and I love it. This book really fucked me up. It's really weird. This is a book about a guy who gets a pet rat for Christmas, but also it's the end of the world, again because of climate change. And also fairy tales are like real and they're trying to save humanity. And also it's told by rats. There's a ship of women scientists who spend all their time knitting. Like there's so much stuff in here. It's a very surreal, weird book. How do you even describe it? It's told by the main character who's in... He's dreaming he's in a satellite that's orbiting Earth and the world has ended. And the rats are like, what did you expect? It's really weird. I loved this. I bookmarked so many little sentences. It talks a lot about how let me read you one. You should have got started sooner. You should have learned from your mistakes. You should have this. You should have that. The dying forest, all very well. Need I mention the stinking rivers, the oceans that can barely breathe, the poisons seeping into the groundwater, the millions of particles that weigh down the air, the new plagues and the old plagues that are coming back, Ipchip and cholera? Need I enumerate the encroaching deserts, the dried out bogs? Need I shout from atop the garbage mountains? You robbers, you exploiters, you prisoners. I can't tell if this book is good or if it's just weird. I think you could get a lot out of this. If you ever come up on a copy, you should definitely read it. But, like, it does feel pretentious. But also, this book was written in the 80s, and it's really depressing and... I want to say, like, discombobulating to read someone who sees the writing on the wall, sees how governments and corporations and like thievers and robbers will respond to the coming climate crisis and see that it's useless and hopeless in the 1980s. But also maybe that's hopeful because here we are 45 years later or whatever. But man, this book fucked me up. It took me such a long time to read. It was too much. It was so much. I don't know. I did just finish this yesterday, so I don't know what I'm thinking about it. But I do want to read more by Günter Grass. I actually saw on eBay he has a book called The Two-State Solution, and I thought it was about Israel-Palestine because Günter Grass is a German man. He was conscripted into like the SS as a child, as like an 18-year-old, and then very soon the war was over, and he kind of spent the rest of his life talking about how Nazis are bad, actually, and he also opposed Israel's claim to just like, you know, that's a whole thing. But actually, his Two-State Solution book was about East and West Germany and how he did not think they should rejoin. So I'm kind of interested in reading that. I don't know anything about that era. Yeah. Anyway, I think Günter Grass has won the Nobel Prize in literature. I thought this was really good. It was written really well. There were so many things that made me like stop and be like, wow, I'm just waving this around. I'm so bad. Sorry. That's what I read over the winter. And I had a pretty good reading time. I'm going to go to Half Price Books today and sell a bunch of books. And maybe I'll get some new books. But thanks for watching. Let me know what you read over the winter and if any of them accidentally became about climate change, because a lot of mine were. Hang on, let me. Okay, so this one climate change, this one climate change, this one climate change, and this one, accidentally half the books I read that were not The Green Knight were climate change. That's crazy. Okay. Okay. Bye. 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 Bye.